Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown,
the unofficial sumo podcast
for official sumo fans.
Welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown. This is Ryan.
This is Jake.
And this is our This is my Banzuke prediction for the Natsu Basho. A little bit late this week. My baby got sick the previous weekend, which means I had a 2-day delay on when I got sick, and then it kicked my ass for the entirety week. Fun fact, literally lost 10 pounds last week. So back up 7 more. So
good for you.
We're recovered, but boy, was that a week.
Sounds like one of those out both ends kind of things.
You would be right, sir.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have a couple quick shout outs since it has been like 2 weeks since we've recorded anything together other than interviews. One for Blaine Henry, of the Fight Library podcast. Go check him out for MMA coverage. We had him on the show, feels like a million years ago, to talk about sumo wrestlers fighting MMA fights because it always goes so well for them. But he found and sent another one to me. Apparently Katsunori Kikuno, who's like a legit mixed martial artist. He's way past his prime, but like a legit karate guy. Fought former sumo wrestler Kazuki Nojiri, who sounds pretty cool, right? The former Waka Musashi. He sounds kind of impressive for a sumo wrestler, right? No, this guy had a 2-year career in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
He made it up to low Joni Dan and quit. And it, like, the more research I do into it, the sadder it gets. But the match itself, also very sad. Exactly what you expected.
I'm just watching some clips of it right now, and
defensive sumo technique is very poor for defending punches straight to your face.
Yeah, it turns out when you don't train to defend against strikes, you're not very good at it.
Punches right to I swear to God, every single punch landed at maximum efficiency directly on Nojiri's chin. Every single one of them. Ridiculous.
All right.
On a happier note, real quick, my other shout out, got a bitchin' new t-shirt from Raijin Sumo. Yeah, check that out.
Very, very sweet looking logo they've got there. Where is Raijin Sumo out of?
That is our friends out of North Carolina.
All right.
Shirt just came in today. Go find them on Instagram if you want one of your own.
All right. With that being said, we will jump into the Banzuke prediction, starting with Yokozuna, where we will have Terano Fuji on the east side. And then as for what to do with the rest of the people at the Yokozuna rank, it took a lot of deep thought and
had to
search
some
lot of research.
Yeah,
lot of research, but I think we're going to leave that blank still.
Okay. I tuned out for a couple months. How did Mitakayumi do? Did he get promoted straight away?
No, he is. He is still going to be Ozeki. He is going to be our East Ozeki 1. Is Mitakayumi due to him having the best record amongst the 3 Ozeki with his 11-4 record, and then in the Ozeki Shuffle, Shodai will be second at West Ozeki 1 after his 9-6 record, and then Takakeisha will slide down to West Ozeki 2 after his 8-7 record. There are no Kadoban Ozeki, so we're guaranteed to see this trio, at least this trio, for the next 3 Basho. Maybe the next highest ranked guy at Sekiwake East, Wakatakakage, maybe he has another fantastic Basho and he joins that triumvirate. But right now, he will remain at Sekiwake East after his Yusho win, and joining him once again on the west side of the Sekiwake rank, that will be Abi. They both had winning records. Wakatakage had more wins than Abi. No reason to shuffle them around. So Sekiwake will remain the same as it was last time.
Is that sirens coming through?
Yes.
Cool.
What'd you do?
We should probably hurry this up.
Okay. I will do my best.
But yeah, there's nobody. There's no reason to do anything special there. No reason to get a third Sekiwake slot. Nothing like that.
I mean, there's some people who might argue for it on this one. I don't foresee it happening, but I'll get to why.
Okay.
could do something, but no, I don't think they will be. Komosubi on the east side. Hoshoryu is going to slide over from the west side of the Komosubi rank after his 8-7 record, which leaves only one open slot for a new Rikishi to join the Sanyaku ranks after Takanosho's 4-11 record from the Komosubi rank in March. And there are a lot of contenders to join the Sanyaku ranks. By the math, there are 4 Maegashira based on their previous rank and record that could land as high as Sekiwake, that being Ichinojo with a 9-6 for Maegashira 2, Kiribayama with a 10-5 for Maegashira 4, Kotonowaka with 11-4 for Maegashira 6, and Takayasu with his 12-3 for Maegashira 7. But I don't believe any of them will take the open Komosubi West slot, and that's because we have Daieisho. Daieisho was the highest ranked Maegashira at the Maegashira 1 East rank, and he got an 8-7 record. Since 1970, every Maegashira 1 East Rikishi with a winning record has gone up into the Sanyaku ranks the next Basho, even if they need to open up a new slot to create a new Komosubi rank. But since there is an open slot here, he will slide right in, even though by the math, he deserves to be ranked lower than the 4 guys that I had just mentioned there. Because he was a Maegashira 1 East, he will slide in there and take that last Sanyaku slot. Unfortunately, none of the other contenders, in my belief, have a strong enough record to force open extra Sanyaku slots. So everybody else will have to fill in the gaps from Maegashira 1 to Maegashira 2, which actually works out really well. We have 4 guys that deserve to be ahead of Daieisho. They're all going to fill out Maegashira 1 and 2. There's nobody else that deserves to be ranked until Maegashira 3, so it actually works out perfectly.
Oh, okay. Kind of
yes.
Solves itself.
Yeah, exactly. So at Maegashira 1, I have Ichinojo ending up as the top ranked guy out of this group of 4. So Ichinojo, Kiribayama, Kotonowaka, based on rank and record, deserve to land at exactly the Sekiwake rank. Takayasu actually, if there was a rank you could achieve ahead of Sekiwake without meeting certain conditions, Takayasu deserved to be that rank. Like if you could just be at Ozeki based on rank and record, that's where Takayasu's rank and record would have landed him. So by the math, Takayasu should have first priority for the top Maegashira slot. But just like how Daieisho, hi Katie, just like how Daieisho took priority for the Komosubi slot.
Did you see the face she made? Was that on camera?
It probably was, but I started looking at the outline again, so I missed it.
Oh,
I'll have to watch on YouTube.
It was precious. And now she's given me a different kind of a look.
But yeah, as the door is now completely closed.
Just awkwardly, as slowly as possible, creaking closed. I don't know. People who interrupt podcasts are just, I don't know.
The worst. You should really think about a marriage therapist.
I honestly probably.
Yeah.
Disturbing our podcast just to check to see if the cat was okay being locked in here. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Her inability to let you have hobbies of your own and just needs to intrude upon everything that you do is a really unhealthy sign. And I really think you guys need to talk to somebody.
When I chose to share my life with her for the rest of my years, little did I know.
She would always be there.
She would always be around, wondering what I'm up to.
Yep. But yeah, so Takayasu, he deserves to be ahead of all of these other guys, Ichinojo, Kiribayama, Kotonowaka. But just like how Daieisho took priority for that open Komosubi slot over other more qualified Rikishi, I think the same is going to happen to Takayasu here. So I like I said, I have Ichinojo taking the Maegashira 1 East spot. There was only one time in history that a Maegashira 2 East with a 9-6 record, which is what Ichinojo was, fell any lower than Maegashira 1 East. And that time that happened was actually the last time that rank and record combination happened. So that was an interesting case with Hokuto Fuji. He was 9-6, and it was actually this time last year. He was 9-6 at Maegashira 2 East. Wakataka Kage was 10-5 from Maegashira 2 West. There was nobody that dropped out of the Sanyaku ranks that Basho, much like we only have one person dropping out this time. So the only place for those 2 guys to go was to Maegashira 1. I predicted that they were going to create new Komosubi ranks for those guys. Obviously, they did not do that. So since Wakataka Kage had the better record than Hokuto Fuji, he jumped over Hokuto Fuji to take the Maegashira 1 East slot, and Hokuto Fuji only moved up a half rank to Maegashira 1 West. We don't have a similar situation to that this time. I think Takayasu is far enough down the Banzuke that he's not going to take priority over Ichinojo here. So I think it's pretty easy on the case of Joy Bias that Ichinojo will take the Maegashira 1 East rank. And that specific case that I just talked about, Hokuto Fuji and Wakataka Kage, is why I don't believe they are going to be creating any extra Sanyaku slots to allow these guys who, by their rank and record, deserve to be in there, but just based on everything lands, they're just going to be unlucky and not make it in this time because we had a 10-5 Wakataka Kage for Maegashira 2 that did not open up a Sanyaku slot there. Certainly not going to do it for Ichinojo, who's only 9-6.
Fair enough.
So on the M1 West rank, I have that one. I have a little bit closer fight between Takayasu and Kiribayama. So once again, Takayasu deserves to be ahead of him by the math, but Kiribayama was either the last guy or the second from last guy in the Joy, but he was in the Joy, so he has Joy Bias on his side. But when you dig deeper into both of their schedules, they both fought the same amount of Sanyaku Rikishi at 6.
Because they bumped up Takayasu to the hard schedule earlier than they normally do, right?
Yeah. Kiribayama, to fill out the rest of his non-Sanyaku matches, he does have more matches against higher ranked Rikishi, like between Maegashira 1 through Maegashira 4 than Takayasu did.
Okay.
So schedule-wise, Kiribayama might still have a little bit of an edge over Takayasu. It's really close. But the Banzuke committee has been really heavily favoring higher ranked Rikishi recently, especially Rikishi in the Joy. So despite Takayasu deserving to be ahead of Kiribayama, with Kiribayama being in the Joy, I'm going to leave him ahead of Takayasu for now and have him at the Maegashira 1 West rank.
Just to break my heart one more time.
That's what I live for, Jake. That's the entire reason I'm still on this podcast. It's tearing my marriage apart. I mean, not even. Let's talk about your marriage. My marriage, just on the rocks.
In shambles.
I barely have a relationship with my daughter at this point. The only reason all of it could go away if I quit this podcast, but I need to just stab that knife into your ribs a little bit with Takayasu, never amounting to anything worthwhile in his entire life.
Sorry, that was a little bit low, but whatever.
The darkness of my home situation took hold a little bit there, so I apologize for that.
You're only allowed to see your daughter when she's sick enough to get you sick, and that's why we're in this predicament.
Exactly, yeah, pretty much. I'm just there to clean up the messes. Maegashira 2 on the east side. Takayasu, that is where I'm going to have him landing. He's the clear-cut candidate for Maegashira 2 East. So I have him going ahead of Kotonowaka. Kotonowaka easily is going to be jumped by Takayasu due to Takayasu having one more win while ranked one rank behind Kotonowaka. Neither one of them were in the Joy. So very clear case that Takayasu will be Maegashira 2 East, if not higher for Takayasu. But I think Kotonowaka, very clear-cut Maegashira 2 West. Don't know who else you would put in there. So Maegashira 3, we've got two candidates, pretty simple, Endo and Tamawashi. They're the only two guys that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 3. But it's a dead tie for who should be on the east side of these two. So Tamawashi was Maegashira 2 West, had a 7-8, is dropping down. Endo was Maegashira 4 West, had an 8-7, rising up. So I'm going to go with Endo on the east side, and I almost went with Tamawashi, only dropping that half rank to Maegashira 3 East, because when I look at both of their schedules, now they're both in the Joy, but Tamawashi fought everybody inside of the Joy except Kiribayama, so he had 14 matches within the Joy, whereas Endo only fought 5 matches, where Endo fought 5 matches outside of the Joy, including Rikishi, like Kotoeko, who are ranked Maegashira 12. Tamawashi didn't really get anybody that low ranked. So if we're looking at schedules overall, Tamawashi would kind of win that battle. But what swung it into Endo's favor for me was the day 15 matchup that Endo had, and that was against Tamawashi, and that was a win for him.
Well, that's convenient.
Yeah. So I'm just going to let the result on the Dohyo determine their rank on the Banzuke. Kind of like...
Hot take there.
Well,
I know what you mean.
I kind of see it as like a Makuuchi Juryo match where you have somebody who's like one loss away from being demoted to Juryo versus somebody who's one win away from being promoted to Makuuchi. Let them fight it, and whoever wins that match will take the spot. So that's kind of what I viewed this as.
I'm just saying that the result on the dohyo should determine where they're at on the Banzuke is
the whole point.
Yeah.
that is the thesis statement.
Yes. We should copyright that or something.
Yeah. So yeah, Maegashira 3 East, I have Endo. Maegashira 3 West, I have Tamawashi going there. Maegashira 4 on the east side, Hokuto Fuji is basically the only guy that can go there. You might get a little weird and put Takanosho dropping from Komusubi with his 4-11 record, since Hokuto Fuji was outside of the Joy. Maybe do something weird, put Takanosho ahead of him, but I don't think they do that, because you can easily just slide Takanosho at Maegashira 4 West right behind Hokuto Fuji. A somewhat soft landing for a 4-11 record, but we see those all the time for falling Komusubi. There are 3 Rikishi that deserve to be 1 rank ahead of him, actually. Those being Onosho, Tobizaru, and Wakamoto Haru. But since Takanosho was in the Sanyaku, they have even stronger bias than Joy bias. So I think that very easily lends him to landing at Maegashira 4 West ahead of those 3 other guys that I just mentioned. So Takanosho will be our last Rikishi in the Joy for the upcoming Natsu Basho. Let's take a look at the Rikishi landing in the mid Maegashira ranks. So at Maegashira 5 on the east side, I've got Onosho going there. So I'd mentioned the 3 Rikishi, Onosho, Tobizaru, Wakamoto Haru, that should be coming up next. Pretty dang easy to determine what order they're going to be going in. So they all deserve to end up at the same rank. I think Maegashira 6, so a little bit of over promotions and under promotions here, but nothing crazy. But Onosho was the only one that was in the Joy previously, so he's going to get first priority out of those 3. So I have him going Maegashira 5 East. And then between Tobizaru and Wakamoto Haru, they both went 9 and 6 for Maegashira 9. Tobizaru was previously ranked higher than Wakamoto Haru. Wakamoto Haru cannot jump Tobizaru, which means Tobizaru landing at Maegashira 5 West.
That was nice of them.
Yeah, makes that triumvirate pretty easy to figure out who's going to land where. There's a couple of situations further down the Banzuke where I have like a couple of groups of 3 Rikishi where I can play mental gymnastics for like a half hour to an hour and put them in different, or I already went through that exercise, so I won't need to again, hopefully. But
maybe keep it to under 60 minutes, please.
We'll try.
We do have some things to do tonight.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's groups of 3 that I've created where I could see multiple scenarios and how it goes, and each one is more likely than the next, and it just puts me in a bad headspace. So
well, good thing you don't have that family to distract you.
Oh God,
that'd be the worst.
Yeah. So Maegashira 6 on the east side. I think it should be Wakamoto Haru easily taking that spot there. But you do start having Ura creep into the conversation. So Ura was a Maegashira 1 who had a 4-11 record, and because he was in the Joy, I could see him going ahead of Wakamoto Haru here, just because Wakamoto Haru was Maegashira 9. But Wakamoto Haru deserves to be 2 ranks ahead of Ura, and I think even based on what we've seen, that's a little too much for Joy bias to overcome at this time. So I do have Wakamoto Haru ahead of Ura, and then it comes down to a fight between Ura and Takuto Fuji, both of whom deserve to be Maegashira 8 by their previous rank and record. So now we're doing a 2 rank over promotion or 2 rank under demotion at this point. And luckily, it only gets, the worst it gets on this Banzuke is a 3 rank over promotion or a 3 rank under demotion. And that's only for like 1 or 2 spots. So don't get into the crazy realm that we saw last time with like 6 or 7 rank over promotions or
unless
under
you
demotions.
Count Takayasu getting the shaft on this one.
So yeah, that would be kind of like a
4-ish, I think.
4, yeah, because he's going up. I have him going up 5 ranks where he deserves 9. So yeah,
As
realistically,
usual, things are the hardest on Takayasu.
Yes.
And his number one fan and such.
Yep, exactly. Everything is coming up, not Takayasu. So yeah, Ura, Takada Fuji are the two fighting for the Maegashira 6 West spot. So by virtue of previously being in the Joy, I have Ura taking this spot ahead of Takada Fuji. So moving on to Maegashira East, since Takada Fuji was in contention for the last rank, but missed out on it, I have him landing at Maegashira 7 East. And then we have another pair of Rikishi vying for the next spot at Maegashira 7 West. And those are Shima no Umi and Kotoweko, both of whom deserve to be Maegashira 9. Neither of these Rikishi were in the Joy. And Shima no Umi and Kotoweko only had 3 ranks separating them in Haru. So they were the same tier in the Banzuke. Both were on the east side. So we're just eliminating tiebreakers left and right. We're tied. So I believe in this situation, the tiebreak should come down to who had the better record between the two. And that is Kotoweko in this case, who had a 9-6 record from Maegashira 12 versus Shima no Umi's 8-7 record from Maegashira 10. So with that being the case, I have Kotoweko jumping 5 spots from Maegashira 12 to Maegashira 7 after his 9-6 record to land at Maegashira 7 West.
Ryan, I don't know if you knew this, but if you go on Sumo DB and you go to the Banzuke, there's a checkbox that just says rank next Basho. Have you ever thought to use that when you decide what the Banzuke is going to be?
Ooh, let's try it.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Actually,
it's all blank. Damn it! For a faint glimmer of a second, I thought we had hacked the system.
Yeah. Do you have cookies allowed?
Probably.
I wonder if that's what's going on.
Yeah, that must be.
Clear your cache. Power cycle your router. Just it's worth a shot.
We'll figure it out offline after this Basho. We'll do it the old-fashioned way.
Just this one more time.
Yeah, but next time, now that we have this hack,
I can't believe they just leave that out in the open.
I'm surprised more people aren't using this to game the system and just guess the Banzuke Wizards.
There's a lot of people who are really bad at guess the Banzuke if this is an option.
Can't believe it took us like 3-4 years of me doing this to figure it out.
Oh, wow. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah. So at Maegashira 8, on the east side, since I was debating between Kotoweko and Shima no Umi, and Shima no Umi didn't get the Maegashira 7 West spot, that means I have him landing at Maegashira 8 East. So the next spot, Maegashira 8 West, this should easily fall to Teretsuyoshi. He is the only Rikishi remaining that deserves to be ranked at least Maegashira 10 that's left on the board. So a 3-rank jump for Teretsuyoshi after an 8-7 record. Not too bad, but so Rikishi that we need to look out for that are falling down the Banzuke at this point. We've got Meisei, who is Maegashira 3 with a 1-14 record. And then we also have Ishiura, who is Maegashira 5 with a 2-13 record. Not going to see those guys for a while, but we just it's far too early to even consider them for these ranks, but I just want to make sure we're tracking those guys along. And then the other Rikishi that we have passed with a losing record that are going to be falling down the Banzuke that we haven't placed yet. We've got 3 Rikishi, the word of the day, triumvirate of Rikishi, that were all had 5-10 records next to each other. Maegashira 7 West, Oki no Umi, and then the previous Maegashira 8 pair, Chiyoshoma and Sada no Umi. So those are the only people that we need to watch for dropping down the Banzuke. And I think there's only like 3 Rikishi left that had winning records to look out for coming up. So, or 4. And we're going to talk about one of them next at Maegashira 9 on the east side. So looking at the math, this one should easily be Koto Shoho's spot. He had a 9-6. Well, he deserves to be Maegashira 11. And he's the next Rikishi that deserves to be ranked by the math. But if you look at the group of Rikishi who deserve to be 1 rank below him, you see that Oki no Umi is there, and he had a 5-10 record from Maegashira 7. And if it wasn't for the last couple of Banzuke where the committee went absolutely apeshit by dropping Shima no Umi only a half a rank for a 5-10 record.
Oh God, that's right.
I wouldn't think twice about putting Koto Shoho there. But they have been doing weird things recently, and it's not limited to just Shima no Umi and Miyogiryu barely dropping after 5 and 10 records. On that same Banzuke, we had Oki no Umi and Chiyoshoma dropping only 3 ranks after 4 and 11 records, and both of them ended up being ranked ahead of Sada no Umi, who deserved to be 2 ranks ahead of them. And
that's right. That was so messed up.
Yeah, I think Oki no Umi was in the Joy, and I think Chiyoshoma was just outside of the Joy. So it might just be Joy and Joy adjacent bias taking place there, but I also have a theory that I haven't fully worked out. But it basically amounts to, I don't think the Banzuke committee respects 8 and 7 records. Like I don't think that I think they will rank people ahead of somebody that had an 8 and 7 record, even if that 8 and 7 Rikshi deserved to be ahead of some people. So it's something I'm kind of playing around with, just looking at. I don't have a whole lot of evidence, if any, but that case last time where Chiyoshoma was deserved to be 2 ranks below Sada no Umi and ended up ahead of him. That is something that I'm tracking. Like, I wonder if he had a 9 and 6 record and they were in the same position, if that would have happened, where like Sada no Umi deserved to be 2 ranks ahead of Chiyoshoma, but instead of an 8 and 7, it was a 9 and 6.
What do you think your daughter was up to while you were working through this one?
She was napping.
I work on this. I work on
this during her naps. Despite what I say, I'm a very attentive father, and I try to be there when she's awake and do this stuff when she's sleeping. So anyways, so
I couldn't help myself. All right, move on.
So the fact that Kodo Shoujo was at the bottom of the Banzuke and Oki no Umi was in the middle does make me seriously consider choosing Oki no Umi here ahead of Kodo Shoujo. But despite all that, I am going to go with Kodo Shoujo, just because despite what happened on the last Banzuke, dropping a 5 and 10 Rikshi, only a rank and a half, while there is a Rikshi that deserves to be ranked ahead of them in Kodo Shoujo,
lunacy.
It's just too small of a drop to do that. I think to make that exception to put Oki no Umi ahead of him. So I think Oki no Umi should get punished more than a rank and a half drop, but not much more than that, as I have Oki no Umi landing at Maegashira 9 West. Could have Tochinoshin going here if we wanted to push Oki no Umi down a little bit further. But at this point, I'm completely comfortable with a 2 rank drop with a 5 and 10 record. When I started doing this, I never would have done that.
You've been broken.
I've been broken. Tochinoshin and Oki no Umi both deserve to be the same rank, but Oki no Umi was in a higher tier of the Banzuke than Tochinoshin. So I think that'll keep Oki no Umi ahead of Tochinoshin. And something that I learned about like Shima no Umi and Miyogiryu, where they were placed, so I thought like Kotoeko should have gone ahead of them. Koto Shoujo could have gone ahead of them. But by Kotoeko deserved to be ranked lower than Shima no Umi and Miyogiryu by the previous rank and record on the last Banzuke. It was just because we needed to pull people so far up, and I just didn't think you could drop these people such a small amount, is why we had Kotoeko jumping ahead of them, despite being by the math deserving to be ranked below them. So I did find that interesting. It's not like they really just respected the higher ranked people in that situation and not having Kotoeko jump ahead of them in the rankings, even though that kind of would have made sense, instead of dropping somebody a half rank for a 5 and 10 record, just so they're still ahead of this guy that had an 8 and 7 record. So we'll move on to Maegashira 10 on the east side. If we're not going to put Tochinoshin at Maegashira 9 West, he is pretty much the only candidate for Maegashira 10 East. So of the 3 Rikshi in the Makuuchi division with a winning record that have yet to be placed, he will be the highest ranked amongst them. So similar to the Oki no Umi, Koto Shoujo conversation, you could argue like Chiyoshoma, he had a 5 and 10 record from Maegashira 8. He deserves to be 1 rank below Tochinoshin. It's a very similar conversation that we just had about Okinomi and Kodo Shoho. You could have that conversation here, but once again, I think Chiyoshoma dropping only 2 ranks after a 5-10 record when you could put somebody who deserves to be ahead of him is I don't think you should do that. I still think we need to drop Meisei and Ishiura further down the Banzuke after their 1 and 2 win performances. So I think fairly easily have Tochinoshin going here. And then we get to Aoyama. He is one of our 7 and 8 Rikishi that we have been just leaving in their spot to prevent any further over promotions or under demotions. So we're going to do that with Aoyama maintaining his Maegashira 10 West rank after his 7 and 8 record. And we are going to do the same thing with Miyogiryu at Maegashira 11 East. He also had a 7 and 8 record, so just kind of leaving him there. So this is where we get into the groups of 3 Rikishi, where I tossed and turned overnight. I stayed up until at least 3 a.m. when putting this Banzuke together, trying to figure out which order these guys should go in. So the first group of 3 is Miyogiryu, Chiyoshoma, Sato Naomi. The only thing I know is Chiyoshoma is going to be ahead of Sato Naomi. They had the same rank from the same record. So Chiyoshoma was previously on the east side. He'll be ahead of Sato Naomi. I don't want to go into all the different permutations and why I think weird things can happen here. I think mostly I was overthinking myself and trying to be too cute. I'm like, ooh, I got 3rd place on the last Banzuke. I obviously know what I'm talking about. I have to strut my stuff. I'm just going with the
straight to your head.
Yeah, I'm just going with the simplest solutions. I'm not gonna get too cute here. So the simplest solution is leave Miyogiryu at Maegashira 11 to keep filling the gaps, and then you have Chiyoshoma following him at Maegashira 11 West, and then you have Sato Naomi following him at Maegashira 12 East. Once again, still think it's too early for Meisei. I don't think this is where we're starting to get the range where I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities for Meisei to land. But I just keep looking at a 1 and 14 record. I'm like, you just gotta keep kicking that down. You can't mess with that.
We can't have that.
Yeah. You could also possibly see Nishikigi sneak up and be ahead of like Chiyoshoma or Sato Naomi, because I believe they deserve to be the same rank by their previous rank and record. Yeah, that is the case. But with Chiyoshoma and Sato Naomi being in like the mid Banzuke area and Nishikigi being in the bottom Banzuke area, I think that difference in Banzuke tier will be the tiebreaker for Chiyoshoma and Sato Naomi.
Sure.
And so I have another group of 3 problematic Rikishi where I could justify to myself literally any order for these 3. But I'm going to go with the simplest solution. So the group of 3 is Meisei, Chiyotairyu, and Nishikigi. So once again, just simplest solution, hopefully being the right one. Chiyotairyu act as a stopgap Rikishi, 7 and 8 record. Keep him in his spot after a 7 and 8 record. I will go into why this one is a little bit harder for me, because Nishikigi and Chiyotairyu deserve to be the same rank and record. And I'm putting Chiyotairyu ahead of Nishikigi by not demoting Chiyotairyu and all after a 7 and 8 record. And I was a little concerned, like, well, can you not demote somebody when somebody like deserves to be at that same rank and record? And I look back and found a previous case on a Banzuke where I never even thought about it. And yeah, they deserve to have the same rank and record, and the 7 and 8 guy stayed at his rank, not being pushed down at all. So like I said, I was trying to get too cute with myself, which often happens in the wee hours of the morning when I get makeup and good lighting on. Just get way too cute with myself. Edit that out, Jake.
That bit was already too long.
It was. I apologize. Just edit that out. Edit around this. Nobody.
Absolutely. I promise I'm going to do that.
But yeah, once again, keep things simple. Chiyotairyu, stay where you are. I could see an argument for pushing him down, and I'm you could sway me to convince me that would happen, but I'm going to leave him at Maegashira 12 West after a 7-8 record. And then I have Nishikigi landing at Maegashira 13 East. I have him going ahead of Meisei here due to their difference in rank of 13. I could easily see Meisei going ahead of Nishikigi, but Nishikigi deserves to be 3 ranks ahead of Meisei, and that's just too much math for me to contradict. And like I said, 1 and 14s deserve to be punished. So I think keep kicking Meisei down the road. But Meisei is the next Rikishi that would be placed on the Banzuke if we are ignoring promotees from Juryo, which of course we are. So
as is tradition.
Yeah. So after we place Nishikigi, there's a big gap where there's no Rikishi that deserve to be this rank. In fact, we're trying to fill Maegashira 13 West. We're going to have to pull from a pool of Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 16. So there's only one Rikishi left to place that was in the top division with a winning record. That's Ichi Yamamoto with his 8-7 for Maegashira 17. Like I said, deserves to be Maegashira 16. And him not being placed yet locks away our Juryo promotees. We're looking at Oho, Azumaryu, Midori
You want
Fuji.
all the Makuuchi Kachikoshis placed before anybody from Juryo.
Yeah. And then we're just looking for Rikishi falling down the Banzuke that can fill these spots. And the only Rikishi that we have left falling down the Banzuke are Meisei and Ishiura. Meisei should land ahead of Ishiura here. So I think Maegashira 13 West, I kind of look for where is there a gap where we need to like fill some spots. And when I'm looking for placing these like Maegashira 1 through 4 Rikishi that had terrible records, because it's a crapshoot on where they're going to end up. It's so variable, just because I think they're looking for situations like this. Where can we plug holes in the bottom of the Banzuke? And so this is a place where you can plug a hole. So that's why I have Meisei going at Maegashira 13 West, and then we still got a decent sized hole at Maegashira 14 East. So I got Ishiura falling there. So 9 and 10 rank drops for those guys after 1 and 14 record and 2 and 13 records.
Yeah, those are always the worst. Meisei, like without, I mean, obviously your logic makes sense, but like if it was without context, Meisei with a 1 and 14 for Maegashira 3, depending on circumstances, could be anywhere. It feels like from like M7 to Juryo.
Yeah.
You know, just it is just a massive range depending on where the hole is that needs to be filled and what other garbage has happened on the Banzuke tying you in knots.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, him at Maegashira 13 West, Ishiura Maegashira 14 East, and at Maegashira 14 West, Yutakayama, I have him being the 4th Rikishi on this Banzuke that I have maintaining his rank after a 7 and 8 record. Then we get to Maegashira 15. Jake, remember when I said I prevented myself from getting too cute?
Oh no.
I couldn't stop myself here. So despite the fact that we have yet to place Ichi Yamamoto, who was in the top division and had a winning record, I am putting Oho, who was in Juryo the previous Basho, at Maegashira 15 East ahead of Ichi Yamamoto. So this is because the only 2 times in the past 4 years where a Juryo Rikishi has been ranked ahead of a Makuuchi Rikishi that had a winning record, it was when it was the top Rikishi in Juryo had 10 or more wins, and the bottom Rikishi in Makuuchi had only 8 wins. That happened here again. Ichi Yamamoto was the bottom ranked Rikishi in Makuuchi, 8-7 record. Oho was the top ranked guy in Juryo, had 10 wins. So I'm going to take a chance and put Oho ahead of Ichi Yamamoto at Maegashira 15 East. I would say I'm kind of going against like recent history with what they do with Juryo, but I think I'm just following recent history with what they do with Juryo.
Well, aren't you cute?
I am very cute. But I'm not too cute, and that's important. Right. You don't want to cross the line. Yeah. Never want to cross the line.
This one's just like a cute amount of cute.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to put anybody else ahead of Ichi Yamamoto. So I'm immediately placing Ichi Yamamoto at Maegashira 15 West. So now that we have placed Ichi Yamamoto, we have unlocked the rest of the Juryo Rikishi. So I'm going to be placing Azumaru at Maegashira 16 East. He had, I think, a 10-5 record from Juryo 2. And then I'm going to be putting Midori Fuji at Maegashira 16 West. Midori Fuji had a 12-3 record from Juryo 6. Both of these guys deserve to be ranked 3 or 4 spots ahead of any Makuuchi Rikishi that's left to be ranked. So I think it's pretty safe to put them here. I don't think you can really justify putting anybody ahead of them at this point.
Sure.
So at Maegashira 17, on the east side, I've got Koto Kuzan landing there. By the math, he's the only Rikishi that deserves to be Maegashira 17 or higher, so he's pretty clearly the next guy that'll be placed. And then we come down to the last spot on the Banzuke, Maegashira 17 West. This spot is not going to come down to a battle of, is it going to be this guy dropping down to Juryo from Makuuchi versus this guy coming up to Makuuchi from Juryo? It's going to come down to 2 top division guys fighting and clawing to stay in the top division. It will come down to podcast favorite Chiyomaru versus podcast least favorite Kagayaki. And it worked for me last time, so I'm going to just kind of lean on being mean to Kagayaki and say he gets demoted here ahead of Chiyomaru. And I think Chiyomaru will just barely have what it takes, but by the skin of his teeth, he's going to hang into the top division at the Maegashira 17 West rank. Because you look at it by the math, Kagayaki, Chiyomaru both deserve to be ranked Juryo 1. Kagayaki had a 7-8 from Maegashira 17. I think, and Chiyomaru 5-10 from Maegashira 13. So I think Chiyomaru being ranked higher could give him the tiebreaker. This is tough because I could very easily see a tiebreaker. Well, you have 2 guys at the bottom of the Banzuke. Kagayaki 7-8 record is a better record, despite being the lower ranked guy. So we'll just drop him half a rank, keep him in the top division, and send Chiyomaru down. But like I said, we're going to lean on the side of being mean to Kagayaki. It worked for us last time. We'll see if it works again.
You say it worked for us last time, but historically, despite the absolute dunkability of Kagayaki, I think the Banzuke committee is one of the few people that like Kagayaki.
It would appear.
He's lucked out a lot of times, just getting way under demoted for bad things happening. And I don't know. I think that one's a potential miss. I think just whoever Kagayaki has dirt on the Banzuke committee might be able to sway the rest of the group. So that one's a maybe for me.
Yeah, honestly, that might be my iffiest one on the entire prediction. It's tough.
It's a very memeable situation too.
It really is.
Kagayaki and demotion all being involved. Yeah.
Yeah, because both of them, they're in a virtual tie. They're both on the east side. They both deserve to be the same rank. It's tough. But be mean to Kagayaki is 1 point in my favor, and also just giving the benefit of the doubt to the higher ranked Rikishi. What we've seen over the past couple of Banzuke, if you give benefit of the doubt to the higher ranked Rikishi, you will.
Nope, I caught up. You're right. I got
it. Good. I misspeak a lot, but I was fairly positive I had that one right.
And I mishear even more, so Don't worry about it.
So besides you thinking Kagayaki is going to scrape by and stay at Makuuchi, anything else that stands out to you as potentially being a miss on this Banzuke?
I don't know, not really. I think one that we will glean information from is that Oho promotion. I think that's another one breaking the rule that we need a clever name for, where you have to you can't place a Juryo Rikishi until all of the Kachikoshis from Makuuchi have been placed. I think that's a potential one that will teach us something, but
absolutely.
I don't think there's many that are going to be like way out of the park, except for Meisei's going to end up like only 3 ranks down or something.
Yeah, Meisei's absolutely going to be Maegashira 7 in the next boss.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best prediction there is. So yeah, this one doesn't have as much drama going into it. I think most everybody I have is going to end up within a rank of where I said they would. Whereas the last one where I knew there was some high volatility kind of baked into it. This one, I don't think there's a whole lot of volatility. I think at most I miss somebody by like a rank and a half. That's about it. This is a much more straightforward Banzuke that I honestly made a little bit more complicated for myself than necessary. So we will find out the result of my prediction when the Banzuke is released on April 25th, and we will see how this Banzuke does in competition when the Basho starts on May 8th. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, you can send us an email at grandsumobreakdown@gmail.com. Jake, yes, I know I'm doing this out of order, but for some reason my brain farted on saying if you would like to leave us a 5-star review, you can do so on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast listening service. See how I blended it in seamlessly, though? No, you go ahead. You do your thing now.
I don't remember which parts haven't been done yet. Search for us on all the social medias. We're all there. grandsumobreakdown.wordpress.com. And make sure to watch the U.S. National Tournament. It's going to be at FitCon, which is a convention in Salt Lake City on April 23rd. Me and Mac will be there as live ring announcers like we were for the Vegas tournament, and it will be streamed on YouTube. We'll make sure to blast the details out to everybody as that gets closer.
And if you would like to leave us a voicemail, you can do so at 805-613-7866. That's 805-613-SUMO. Jake, I think it is time for you to hit the stop recording button.
Yeah, that's a better ending than we've had recently. Yeah, you at least saw it coming a minute ahead of time there.
That's right. We're getting better.
Thank you for listening to Grand Sumo Breakdown. Until next time,
Throw your salt high
and keep moving forward.